Have you confessed your sins?
What's up everyone, my name is Adrian and welcome to my in-depth guide for Mira. In my guide, I will talk about everything you need to know on how Mira works, and how to play with her effectively. So first and foremost, let's talk about who and what Mira is. So Mira is a vampire, and is also the sister to Maya. I won't go too far into the story, but basically Mira was once human and also a good guy, but died, was brought back as a vampire, and is now a bad guy. Now what she is the most important to know. She is Killer Instinct's Glass Cannon. Glass Cannon type of fighters are known to have incredible damage, and in Mira's case, she actually deals the most damage in the game, but they also have low health. So in Mira's case, she has to lose some of her real health in order to do most of the things that she can do. Besides dealing the most damage in the game, Mira has amazing special moves, an air dash, an invincible move that can pass through all projectiles and even the opponent themselves, and even an unreactable high-low mix-up. On paper, she is probably the strongest fighter, but her unique health system keeps her in check from becoming a total nightmare. Because of all of this, Mira is not going to be an easy fighter to learn, but if you can rise above her learning curve, you will find just how powerful she really is. I hope my guide will help you on your path, so let's get started. First up, we have the basics. So Mira has some pretty good walking speed. It's nothing bad, nothing fantastic. She also has a decent dash too, as well as a backdash. Again, nothing great, nothing bad. She also has a pretty quick jump, not too floaty. She has a pretty good grab too, I think is one of the really good ones. Does 9%, and it can lead in some really good setups. Then we also have her normal attacks, which are also really good. She has her standing attacks. Let me go ahead and turn on attack properties first. So first we have Light Punch. Now this is going to be your jabbing attack. Then we have Standing Light Kick. And now this one is pretty good for a light kick. It has really good range. Then we also have Standing Medium Punch. Now this one is probably going to be her best normal to use. It has very good reach. So about right here, we'll hit them. So definitely use this one a lot to keep the pressure going. Then we have Standing Medium Kick, which is okay. It's not going to have as much range as Medium Punch, but it's still really good. Then we have Heavy Punch. Now Heavy Punch will leave the opponent, or it'll leave, on block, it'll leave you +3, but it is a 2-hitting move, so it is possible for the opponent to shadow counter. So I personally would advise not to use Heavy Punch. And then we also have Heavy Kick. Now Heavy Kick is probably going to be another good one. It has very good range. So this one is going to be really good to use against armored opponents. It has a very good range, and it hits pretty hard too. So next we have the crouching moves. We have Crouching Light Punch, which is also a jab. Then we have Crouching Medium Punch. Nothing fantastic. Then we have Crouching Heavy Punch, which is going to be her anti-air. It's not really that great of an anti-air, but you know, at least she has one. Then we have Crouching Light Kick. Now this one is going to hit low, and is also chainable. Then we have Crouching Medium Kick, which is also a good skill, has very good reach. And then we also have, that was a low hitting attack by the way, and then we also have Crouching Heavy Kick, which is also a low hitting attack, and it's going to be her sweep. So she has really good normals. You definitely want to use all the normals at your advantage. So if you're in the corner, you can apply some pressure with your jabbing attacks. Or if you're mid-screen, use Medium Punch. And if you know the opponent's coming in that's armored, you can whip out a Heavy Kick, and hopefully it hits. Then we also have her air normals. She also has an air dash. This is going to be really, really powerful. Let me go ahead and turn off health regeneration. So yes, she has an air dash. You just do the dashing motions in the air. And now, if you look at my screen, if you look at my health bar, you'll notice that my red health is going down. Now this is part of her health mechanic that I'll get into in just a little bit. But first let's talk about the air dash. So the air dash is really good because she can travel across the screen much faster than just dashing normally on the ground. She can actually cancel her air moves or she can cancel her air dash into her air moves. So this is really, really important. So Mira is pretty much like a mix-up monster. She has very, very good mix-ups, and her air dash is key to do a lot of them. So let's go ahead and start talking about her air attacks briefly. So first we have Light Punch. Then we have Light Kick. Then we have Medium Punch, which is probably going to be her best one. It has very good reach. Then we have Medium Kick. Then we have Heavy Punch. Now this one is really, really good. It hits twice and hits pretty vertically. And then we have Heavy Kick. And now Heavy Kick is going to be her true cross-up. And I say true because with her air dash, we can actually use her air dash to cancel into certain moves, and they become cross-ups now. So I can do something like this, where I jump over the opponent, air dash backwards, and then do Heavy Punch. And now that's a cross-up. Or Light Punch, and that's a cross-up. Medium Punch, now that's a cross-up. Cross-up, cross-ups. You get the idea. Mira is really good in the air. And now if you also look at my health, my red health is slowly draining. And I'll get into that in a second. But one of the very first things you want to do with Mira is you want to master her air dash. And by mastering, I mean being able to do the air dash as quick as possible from off the ground. So something like this. If you wanted to, or if you need to, you can jump up at her max height and then air dash if you need to. But the reason why you want to master the air dash from off the ground is because when you're able to do that, you can actually use Heavy Punch as a means to do some really, really fast instant overheads, because all of your air normals are overhead attacks. They're all hit high. So then if you can manage to get the proper spacing right, you can do something like this. Or something like this with her Heavy Kick. So yeah, when you're playing with her, go to training mode and just kind of like do this all day. You know, you want to make sure you get the timing down with her heavy or with her air dashes, because even this is really good offensively, but it's also great for using it defensively. You can do something like this, where you can run away faster than it would be to just backdash instead. So her air dash is really, really good. Take the time, and you will definitely see an improvement. And then she also has a command normal, which is going to be back and Heavy Punch. It's going to be called Vicious Strikes, and it hits multiple times and does 8% damage. Now this is really good for starting combos. You want to make sure that the opponent, the opponent's going to get hit by it, so do it on punishes, because if you hit them and they're blocking, it's easily shadow counterable, so be careful with that. So just a quick recap, her air dash, very, very important, and we'll get into a lot more setups later on with her air dashes. Very, very strong. Her normal attacks are very good, so you use Medium Punch a lot, Heavy Kick a lot, crouching Heavy Punch if you know the opponent is going in for the jump, and overall very strong with her basic moves. Alright, so next let's talk about her Mist skill. So to perform Mist, you press all 3 punches, and during this time you will temporarily turn into a silver cloud of mist. It is very, very reminiscent to a certain Castlevania game. During this time, in the mist form, she cannot attack, but she also cannot be hit. So if the opponent was to throw out projectiles at me, I can actually pass through them. See, right there. I can also go in any direction I wanted to. I can go up, I can go up to the right, I can do it in the air, I can go back downward, I can even do it neutral. And I can even go through the opponent themselves. And I can cancel it into her air moves. So right there we just saw where I died, that was actually her health mechanic coming into play, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Let me go ahead and turn off the dummy. Alright, so again, Mist is performed by 3 punches. I can go in any direction. It is going to take a huge chunk of my red health, so while it is very, very powerful both offensively and defensively, it is going to cost Mira quite a bit of her red health. And all of this silver health that you see here is recoverable. The silver health is actually called recoverable damage because of that very reason. So don't worry, all of this silver health we can get back. So with Mist, it's very, very good at doing crazy mix-ups, and also really good at escaping pressure. Notably, Mira lacks with any really good wake-up options. She doesn't have a DP, so Mist is really going to be her only reversal. So when you're getting knocked down, you either have to wake up and take the pressure, or wake up and mist away. Now, while misting away is a much easier solution, it is also a lot more riskier, because while it is really good, it does also it's slowly killing you, and if you do it all the time on wake up, the opponent can actually catch on and they can punish you for it. So while Mira is invincible while in the mist form, when she goes back to normal, she can be hit. So if I do something like jump over the opponent, they might try to DP me after my mist ends and they can hit me. So it's really good, but you gotta be careful when to do it. So if you want to do it on wake up, you need to really think about if it's even a good idea. So in Mira's case, you might just want to learn how to properly block on wake up. It's going to be hard, I know, but I definitely don't recommend waking up mist all the time. You will slowly kill yourself like that. So we can also do mist after an air dash, and if we miss, we can actually air dash again. You can only do an extra air dash if you missed in the air first. You cannot mist then air dash twice. It can only be done once, and you have to do it. If you want to do 2 air dashes, you have to do 1 air dash, mist, then air dash. So as you can see right there, I'm on the right corner of the screen. I jumped up, air dash, jumped up again, or used mist, air dash again, and I'm already pretty much on the other side of the screen. So Mira is really good with her mobility, and it's also really hard for the opponent to keep a lockdown on her. So if she's being bullied in the corner, she really doesn't have any reason to take the corner pressure. She can easily mist away. But again, the opponent can catch on to that, so you really have to be smart about your misting. So that's basically it for Mist. I will get into some really cool setups later on, but right now let's talk about her health mechanic. So I was doing all those mists, and my red health was slowly draining and leaving out some silver health. Now, as you can see on my health bar, I no longer have red health. Excuse me there. So, as you might have seen earlier, when Jago hit me with his fireball, I basically died. So, when my red health is gone, I basically have 0 health. And as you can see, the danger is on my health bar too. So, Mira is a very risky fighter to play as. You really have to make sure you keep an eye on your health bar, because you might be doing a lot of damage, you might be doing some crazy setups, but you might find that you're not too far away from the opponent's health. So keep an eye out always. So if I keep using skills that take away health, it'll actually drain away my real silver health if I have no more red health. So I have no more red health. If I press mist again, it's actually going to take away silver health, that could have been recoverable. So if I keep doing it, I'll get to the point where I can actually no longer do mist. I'm pressing 3 punches, and mist isn't coming out. And her air dash takes away some silver health. It's not a whole lot, so I can keep using this. But then I'll get to the point where I can no longer do mist either. I'm pressing the buttons for mist, or I'm pressing the buttons for air dashes, and I'm not getting it. So right now, Mira is pretty much at her worst right now. You know, there's nothing that she can really do. She can use some of her other normals, she can use some of her other specials, but she's going to be very limited on what she can do. So at this point in the game, it's going to be a really, really tough road ahead. So this is not what you want to be coming into with Mira. You definitely don't want to reach this point in a match. We have no more red health, you have no more silver health, there's nothing you can do other than die. So while it is kind of scary to think about this happening, I do believe that Mira and her mix-up potential, her damage output, it all makes it worth it in the end. You know, Mira is a lot of fun to play as, but a lot of the things that make her fun are huge risks. But at the same time, that's what I believe makes her a lot of fun to play as. So that's basically her health mechanic, and that's basically mist. So let's go ahead and start talking about how to get that mist, or how to get that health back. So in order to gain back any red health that we have lost, that is recoverable, we have to use her command grab special called Embrace. And to do Embrace, we have to do quarter circle back and any punches, or any kicks, sorry. And they won't do any damage. The command grabs and the shadow version, they don't do damage. And that's because the way you play as Mira, you know, when you're doing your damage and you're doing your mix-ups, you have to sacrifice your health in order to get that. So if you want to get your health back, you're gonna have to sacrifice the damage output. So it's kind of like what makes Mira balance in a way. You know, you can't have both. You can't have amazing damage and keep all of your health. You have to give something up in return. So let me go ahead and show you what light version looks like. So light has you grabbing stationary where you're at. It is actually faster than her normal grab in frames. So if you know the opponent is coming in for a grab, or you trying to go for a grab, you might want to consider maybe doing Embrace instead, since it is a command grab, so it cannot be teched. But anyways, so do the light Embrace, and she will grab the opponent in the air and then bite them. And as you can see, it did 0% damage to the opponent. And its main source, its only use is to gain health back. So I have no more red health, and doing the command grab will gain about 1/4 of a full health bar. It's not exactly 1/4, but it's near there. So I can do this 3 more times, then I'll be on max health. Alright, so then we have her medium embrace. Medium embrace is going to be a anti-air, and all 3 strengths, including the shadow version, they all gain back the same amount of about 1/4. So medium is a anti-air, that's about it. It catches them in the air. And then we have heavy, and heavy is going to have her leaping forward and then grabbing. You want to be about right here for it to work. If you want to, you can use the training mode's default position, and then step like a little bit, and then you're in the reach. So this one is really good because you can actually cancel your standing moves into embrace. So I can do something like medium punch into heavy embrace. And while it isn't a combo and it's also not a true block stream, it is still very hard to react to. So it's really hard for the opponent to actually dodge it. But if they are expecting it, they can press jump to avoid it, or they can actually press like a jab to knock you out. So it is kind of a risky thing to do, but Mira is all about taking risks, and if you are low on health, you're gonna have to take the risk to gain that health back. But when you gain that health back, you basically are able to do a lot of your strong moves again, and her moves are very strong. So then we have the shadow version, and it's basically a shadowed version of heavy, and it's going to be like basically any other shadow command grab in the game. It's going to have a faster frame startup, it's going to be throw invulnerable, and all that good stuff. So you cannot do medium punch into this because it'll just whiff it. So you gotta do something like that. So then we have the linkers, and these work a bit differently. I'm gonna go ahead and lose all of my red health. The linkers will bite the opponent, and the light linker will bite once. The medium bites 2 times, and then heavy bites 3 times, and it gains back the most health. And these also don't do a whole lot of damage. So if I do something like this, that did 10% damage, and if I add the linker, it only did 11%. And if I do the heavy, it's still only going to do 11%. So if you're doing the linker versions of Embrace, you're not doing it to do the damage, you're doing it to gain back the health. And it's really good to do when the opponent is locked out, because you can use that opportunity to determine if you need to do more damage to the opponent or you need to gain back more health. So pretend as if the opponent locked out, like they guess broke wrong. I can use this time to use my heavy linkers to gain back as much health as possible before the lockout timer goes away. So next up we have the Ender, and this one works a bit differently too. This one will determine, it depends on what the level of the pip Ender you used. So I do the 1 pip Ender, it gains back a small amount. Doing the 2 pip Ender gains back a little bit more. It's going to be around the same amount of doing heavy linker. And then we have the 3 pip Ender. Now this one, oops, I forgot I had no health. I forgot I had health. Alright. So the 3 pip Ender actually gives back a pretty good chunk. If you're going to do the Enders, I do suggest doing either the 3 or 4 pip Ender. Then we have 4 pip, which gains back the most. It's going to give back the same amount as if you did the normal command grab, which is about 1/4 of a health bar. So again, if you're going to go for the Ender, I do suggest going for the 3 pip or 4 pip, because the 1 or 2 pip doesn't really give back a whole lot of health, and after you do your Ender, you basically end your turn. And then we have the Shadow Ender version, and what's great about the Shadow Ender is that it doesn't matter what pip Ender we use it on. So I can do something like a easy 1 chance break combo, go for the Shadow version, and then just like that, I gain back the max amount, and it's really good at when you're really low on health and you really need the health back. You can do something like that, or do something really simple and hard to break, and then you're basically at a good amount of health again. And because it is a command grab, her normal version, you really want to make sure you find some really good Embrace setups. It is a grab, so you have to be in front of the opponent's face, but Mira has no problem at doing rushdown. She's a rushdown monster, so I can do something like air dashes and go for the grab, can even do something like this, or maybe even go for a reset during my linkers. You really have to get creative, because it is a command grab. The opponent can jump out of them, so you really need to get them when they least expect it. Use your anti-air if you're fighting against a lot of people who are jumping a lot. Use your heavy. Use your shadow to catch them off guard. I don't really see a whole lot of Mira players use the shadow version, like during neutral. It's still really good. So yeah, she has many ways of getting health back. You just gotta find the best timing to do so. So next we have Bloodseekers. To perform Bloodseekers, you do quarter circle forward and any punch. So Bloodseekers, or as I like to call them, bats, these are going to be your main source of applying pressure. So first up we have light bats. Light bats travel the fastest, and they also spawn the fastest. Each strength of bats will spawn 3 of them, and these bats will disappear on hit. And the medium and heavy versions are a bit differently. The medium and heavy also take away a little bit of health. So I personally believe that the light bats are going to be your best bats to use, as well as also being really, really good at applying pressure. So go ahead and do it again. And the reason why it's really good for pressure is that when you use bats, you're able to move around while they're still flying. So what this means is I can do something like throw bats out here, and if the opponent either blocks them or hits them or gets hit by them, I can go in for the mix-up. I can use my air dash, I can use my mist if I wanted to, I can do other moves to get into the opponent's face. So these bats are really meant for keeping the opponent locked down. You can use these for zoning purposes, but it's mainly going to be for the lockdown. If you know the opponent's going to get hit by them or block them, that gives you the opportunity to go in for the mix-up. One popular one is something like this, where you do medium punch into light bats. Now that isn't a true combo, and neither is it for a true block string. So if you do medium punch into light bats, the opponent can actually use a shadow projectile invulnerable move against you, and it will go through. So you gotta be careful with that. If they have meter, you might need to respect them. But if they don't have meter, you can actually use this, and it is a really, really good way of keeping the opponent on the ground and locked down. So I can do something like medium punch, light bats, and then an air cross up, or medium punch into a low, medium punch, light bats into a grab. You know, there's a lot more possibilities to them, but these are just a couple. And this is all just from the light bats. So let's go ahead and start talking about the medium ones now. So the medium bats, let me go ahead and turn off my health regeneration. Alright, so medium bats will take away a little bit of health, but in return, we have something different. So right now the bats spawn a little bit slower, and the bats, the spawning time is a bit slower, and the bats are slow as well. Now, the difference between these two, besides the slowness, is that if you use these against the opponent, if they are, like, say, jumping in the air, and I use the bats about right here, the bats will go and travel to the direction that the opponent was at the time that I spawned them. So if I do them right here, the bat's going to go a little bit too, they kind of like freak out. Each bat kind of goes toward a specific direction, but if you do it at the peak of Jago's jump, that's where they'll go. As you can see right there, they all went to the very top of the screen. And that's what medium bats do. They travel the location of the enemy when you had spawned them. So medium bats has its uses, but the reason I believe that the light bats is better is because it costs no meter, or no blood, I'm sorry. It costs no blood, and it's the fastest. They spawn fast and they travel fast. Now, when you're playing as Mira, you want to make sure that if you are going to use medium bats or heavy bats, that you have a really, really good reason for it. So if you're playing the lane game, or I'm sorry, I wouldn't call it lane game, but if you're playing the keep away game, don't just spam medium bats and sit back here. You know, if you do that, you're killing yourself. You're continuously losing red life, and before you know it, you're going to end up completely with no red health and you'll die. So when you're far away, if you are going to use medium bats, you need to have a good purpose. You know, go in for the mix-ups, do something. Don't just sit there and just spam them. So then we have heavy bats. And heavy bats will now have 3 homing bats that travel wherever the opponent goes. So if the opponent's in the air, they will travel anywhere he goes until they hit him or I get hit and they disappear. So heavy bats are really good at annoying the opponent, keeping them out of the air, trapping them basically. You can do something like this. Just kind of go crazy with them. Now, they do take away the most amount of health. A good way to remember this is that it takes away as much health as doing Mist. So Mist takes away a good chunk, and then Heavy Bats takes away the same amount. So you could do something like Medium Punch into Light Bats, or you can change it up and do something like Medium Punch into Heavy Bats. Now, it is a slower spawning time, so you really got to be careful. The opponent has a lot more time to react to them, but if you manage to spawn them out, they have to respect the bats because now they track them, and you really need to find a good way to apply the pressure and get your health back too, because the bats are going to take a big chunk, and if you're not careful, you can kill yourself like that. That's basically the simple versions. Now we have the shadow version. Now the shadow version looks pretty cool. By doing the Shadow Bloodseekers, the bats will instead spawn from the ground up towards the opponent's location. So if I do something like this where I have Jago jumping up in the air, the Shadow Bats will travel to the opponent's location at the time I spawn them. So as you can see, it was a little bit further behind him. This time it was right on his feet. Right there, he was able to avoid them. So I had spawned them right when he was in the air, and that's where it traveled. That's when the bats took its place. Yeah, so it'll only spawn where the opponent's current location is. So if they're in the air, it's not gonna actually like hit them unless they, if they don't do any moves in the air and they go on the ground, they won't get hit by them. But if they do like a fireball in the air, like Cinder in Cinder's case, it'll actually trip guard them. So this is really good against Cinder. So the Shadow Bats, as you can see, it only did 4% damage. It's not meant for the damage, much like the bats. They're not really meant for zoning. They're meant for keeping the opponent locked down. And what's great about the Shadow Bats is that they're also really good at keeping yourself safe. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you one of our other skills. It's going to be called Trafine. So on block, Light Trafine is -9. That's horrible. You do not just want to just whiff this out, and if they hit it, if they block it, that's just really, really negative for you. However, if you have Shadow Bats, or if you have Meter, you can actually use Shadow Bats to keep yourself safe. And while Shadow Bats are going, I'm able to freely move around. Same can be said even during the combo too. I can move around. So Shadow Bats are really good at keeping the opponent locked down and really good at keeping yourself safe. So basically, Shadow Bats is probably going to be the best meter spinning move to do. It's very, very powerful offensively and defensively. A lot of Mira's moves leave you negative on block, but they are really hard to block. So even if the opponent managed to block them, you can still pop up your Shadow Bloodseekers to keep yourself safe and keep the pressure going. So she's really, really all about keeping up the pressure, and using Shadow Bats is key to do that. And then we have the Ender. She doesn't have a linker, but the Ender is a wall splat. And what's great about this is that I can do something like this on the corner and actually go for Embrace afterwards. And because Embrace is a command grab, they cannot tech it. But there is something you have to worry about. if you do embrace in the corner from a wall splat, if you do the light or heavy embrace, it will actually only recover half of the full amount. See, that right there gave me the full amount. But if I did it mid combo or at the end of my combo, it was only half. So in order to get the full amount back from a wall splat, you have to do the shadow version. The shadow embrace will always give back the full amount. And later on, I'll show you some really good setups for bats. They are the main source of applying pressure, so you will definitely see a lot more bat combos later on in my video. And that's basically the basics for Bloodseekers. So let's go ahead and start talking about the next special move. Alright, next skill we have is Trephine. Trephine can be performed by doing quarter circle forward and any kicks. And just like the bats, doing medium or heavy Trephine will actually take away some red health. But in return, we get some unique effects for them. So let's first talk about light Trephine. So you already know that it leaves you -9 on block, so it's very, very bad to do on block or just to whip it out. But its main use is to close in. As you can see how well the distance Trephine goes. It's really good at closing in on the opponent. It's really good at going underneath airborne opponents. So like if Sadir is in the air, you can actually use light Trephine to go underneath her. So it's really good at escaping the air pressure if you can manage your timing right. You still have to respect the air game, but if you can manage to time it, you keep yourself safe. So that's basically it for light Trephine. It has the best reach, but it leaves you -9 on block. Then we have medium Trephine. Now medium Trephine won't go as far, and as you can see, it actually has a little bit of a silver spiral with her. Has a little bit more silver to it. That's to let the opponent know what strength it is. So if you are playing against Mira, check that out, and then you can find out which strength it is. If you see all the silverness, it's going to be medium. Less silverness is light. Anyways, so then we have medium Trephine, and this one's going to be interesting because it's actually going to be an exchanger. It's going to exchange on hit or on block at the start of a combo. It won't do it during linkers, but it will do it at the start. So if you do medium Trephine, it keeps you -1 on block. So it is possible to keep yourself safe from certain characters. You can actually use Mist, and most of the time it should keep yourself safe. Earlier when I was talking about the Bloodseekers and how Shadow Bats can keep yourself safe after light Trephine on block, that can't be said for medium Trephine on block. There's a little bit of a gap between Bloodseekers and medium Trephine, so it's not a true block string. So if you are going to use medium Trephine on block, you need to make sure that you have the knowledge against the fighter, because if you don't, you might get punished for it. That's basically it for medium Trephine. So then we have heavy. Heavy travels the shortest, and it also takes away as much health as doing heavy bats or Mist. And medium Trephine takes away as much health as medium bats. So heavy Trephine is really good because now it's going to be our frame trap. It leaves me -2, or I'm sorry, +2 on block, and it's also really powerful. That did 12% damage, and that was just the raw skill. Medium Trephine did 9%. Light Trephine does 5%, but then you got heavy Trephine that does 11, or depending on the health on training mode is different, but on full health it's going to be 12%. So it's really powerful. It's really good also at when you're punishing the opponent. You can do vicious strikes into Heavy Trifine for an extra percent of damage. And that's basically it for the Heavy Trifine. It's really good for frame trapping the opponent on block. So I can do something like a low attack, or I can even go for something like an Embrace. Since it is a positive, I can go for that. The opponent can still try to jump out of it, and it'll make me miss it, so keep that in mind. So then we have the Shadow version. Shadow Trifine is going to be your projectile invulnerable move. Has really good reach. Even better than Light Trifine. It does okay damage. So when it comes to meter spinning and using Shadow Trifine, it's not really ideal to use Shadow Trifine mid combo because of just how much damage Mira can already do from her linkers. So if you are going to use meter mid combo, you don't want to use Shadow Trifine unless maybe the opponent is locked out and that extra 5% damage or that extra 9% or whatever it is during the combo, unless that is going to be between like life or death. So other than that, I wouldn't really use Shadow Trifine as a combo extender because it is easy to combo break and you are wasting your meter that can be saved for other uses like keeping yourself safe from Shadow Bloodseekers or doing one chance combos and get the full amount of health back, among other things. Then we have the linkers, and the linkers are pretty basic. Light linker hits once. Medium, the medium linker will actually take away some red health, but in exchange we're doing damage. We're doing extra damage. And then doing Heavy Trifine will take away even more health, but we're doing even more damage. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this potential damage on Jago and do something like this. So that right there did 26%. But now that did 34%. And then if we do heavy, it's going to be even more. %. So you can really see that when you're doing your linkers, she has 3 linkers. She has Embrace linker, Trifine linker, and then she has her Reaping linker. And the Reaping linker is going to be the damaging linker, while the Embrace linker is going to be the healing linker, and then the Trifine is going to be like the midway point. It's going to deal decent damage, but not nearly as much as Reaping. And then last but not least, we have her Ender, and this is going to be her launcher and exchange Ender. It launches the opponent in the air, and we can actually follow it up with some juggle opportunities. Later on, I'll show you some really good setups for her launcher Ender, and in my opinion, I believe that the launcher Ender is actually more better than her damaging Ender, just because of the setups that can follow. So the last of her specials is going to be the Reaping special. These can be performed by doing Quarter Circle back and punch. And these are going to be the damaging linker, the mix-up special, and what's probably going to be the more riskier move to do. But in return, we are getting a lot of damage and a lot of mix-ups out of it. So first up, we have Light. Light hits 2 times, as does medium and heavy, but Light linker, or the light version, will hit 2 times, and both of the times are going to be mid. It's going to be mid, and it leaves me -2 on block, so you want to make sure that you have Shadow Bloodseekers to keep yourself safe. Then we have medium Reaping, And this one is going to be a bit more different. It's going to do 2 hitting moves. The first hit is going to be mid, and the second hit is going to be low. And it leaves me -4 on block. Then we have heavy. Heavy is going to be mid and then high. So what's great about medium and heavy reaping is that they both pretty much have the same amount of frame data, and they are both really hard to identify when it's going down. So in the opponent's shoes, they have no idea of knowing what version I'm going for. They have no idea if I'm going to go low or high. And so this is what's really good for Mira and her mix-up opportunities, because with her damage output and her mix-ups, we can go in and do something like, now let me have the opponent blocking. So I can do something like, oh wait, he's not going to block that. Something like this, where I went low, then I used my heavy reaping to go for a high attack. So they had to block low and then high. And that's just scratching the surface of what she can do from all these combos. So when you're fighting against the opponent and you're doing this, really the only way that the opponent can really safely avoid it is by shadow countering it. Most of Mira's moves do hit 2 times, like Trafine hit 2 times, Reaping hits 2 times. So when it comes to that, if the opponent has meter and they have a good reaction time, they can actually shadow counter these. So you really gotta be careful with them. When they have meter, you might have to respect them for that. So both heavy and reaping, or heavy and medium reaping, leave you -4 on block. So up close, you want to make sure you have meter to keep yourself safe if they manage to block the mix up. But if you do it about right here, nope, about right here, a little bit here. So if you do it about right there, the opponent on block, they can't actually punish you for that. There is a bit of a gap between you and the opponent, so you are pretty much safe from that. I think the only person in the game that can actually punish you is General Rom with his like 1 frame shadow command grab. But other than that, you're pretty much safe to do it from about right here. Right there. So yeah, if you do it right there, you can keep yourself safe like that. Alright, then we have the linkers. So this is where it gets kind of crazy. Turn off the attack data. So the light linker looks exactly like the normal light attack. The medium linker looks almost exactly like the medium attack. And then the heavy attack looks almost exactly like the heavy version of the special. So this is kind of like the bad side for Mira, because they are really easy to identify. So if the opponent is trying to combo break, all they have to do is look at the direction of the second hit. If the scythe hits, if the gauntlet hits in the mid, it's light. If the scythe hits low, it's medium. If the scythe hits high, it's heavy. So in the opponent's case, it's actually really easy for them to combo break you, but at the same time, you might not know that. You might know that, and you can do a counter breaker, and counter breaks with Mira is just nutty. The damage you can do is just insane. But more on that later. So if you are doing the combo, be on the lookout to being combo broken, because they are easy to combo break. But if they don't combo break them, you're doing massive damage for it. You're doing the linkers for the reaping is just massive damage. So let's compare these from the Trafine. So light Trafine did 26%. Light Reaping did 27, so it's not a whole big gap. Medium Trafine, 35%. This one is 39%, so the difference already there is really good. Then we got 38%. And that right there did 43%. So, as you can already see, the Reaping Linkers do way more damage, but in return, the opponent has an easier time at identifying which strength the Linker was. And I did turn off my health regeneration because I was showing you how much damage these do. If I have it off, they do take away a lot of health too. So the medium linker doesn't really take that much health out, but the heavy linker does kind of take a big chunk. But in return, the damage is, I think, worth it. Right, then we have the Shadow Reaping. Now, Shadow Reaping is okay for ending the combo. If you're gonna do the Shadow Reaping as an ender, it's okay at best, because the difference between doing the Shadow Ender and just her normal damaging ender is gonna be about 5% of damage. So it's kind of hard to show in training mode. But like, that did 43%. Now the scaling is a bit different because of the health the opponent had. So the first one was 43%, and that one was also 43%, and I ended up wasting a meter for it. So the scaling is kind of weird how it works out, but at most the difference is going to be about 5%. So unless you know that 5% is going to be life or death, I would suggest keep the meter for something else. However, it is a juggle cash out, so that's really good. So I can do something like this. And I missed it. Cash out that damage. It's not a whole lot, but when you're doing resets and the potential damage on the opponent is rising, you can do a simple one chance juggle, and you basically did like 30% or 50% damage. And it's not going to be a reversal. As I said earlier, Mira kind of lacks when it comes to her wake up options. So if you do this on wake up and the opponent blocks it easily, it's easily to block. It's going to leave you negative 24. So you don't want to do this on block at all. And then of course we already know that the ender is her damage. And that's basically it for Reaping. Really good for mix-ups, but you got to keep yourself safe on block if you're too close, and you got to make sure that the opponent doesn't have meter to shadow counter. Okay, now we are getting to the really good juicy stuff. So let's talk about her instinct. Now, actually, before I get into her instinct, because of the way her health mechanic works, it is possible to only get one instinct per match. And it is even more possible to get no instinct during a match. But if you're going a game and not getting any instinct, you might need to reconsider how you're using her health mechanic, because you need to at least get one. If you can get two, that's awesome, that's good, but don't be stressed if you can only get one, because her instinct is super powerful, and she really only needs one instinct bar. Her damage output, her setups, her pressure, everything that she can do is so good that having instinct at all is just mind-blowing. And her instinct, that I'll get into some really crazy in-depth instinct setups are just like, I don't even know, I can't even the words I just can't say just how crazy it really is. But let's go ahead and just start talking about how instinct works. Alright, so pop up instinct and we get a bat. That is it. I'm just kidding. There's way more to it. So we get a bat, that spawns every 3 seconds. Now remember that, every 3 seconds. And I'll get into why that's important later on near the end of my guide. But for now, it spawns a bat. It works like any other bat, so if I do get hit, it will disappear. It is possible to have 2 of the instinct bats at the same time. So I can have up to 5 if I really time it out. And the bat that spawns from instinct is a homing bat, and it doesn't cost me any red health. So then, we have more. So now, in addition to having a bat that homes in onto the opponent every 3 seconds, we now have multiple air dashes. I can air dash as many times as I can until I reach the ground. I can go any direction, I can go left or right. I think the max is about 10. Let's see. Oh, you know what? That's because I need to use mist. So yeah, if you have instinct on, you can air dash as many times as you can, and you can still mist. You can only mist once in the air, but you can still air dash afterwards multiple times. I think that was 9. But yeah, she can do tons of air dashes. You can do something like this, go crazy above the opponent. I have bats following the opponent too. The opponent has no way of knowing where I'm going. Misting, going crazy with my air dashes. Now, obviously, while it is really powerful, you can look at my health bar and I'm basically dying. Her mists, her air dashes still take away health, each one of them. So that's kind of a bad thing. But not really. Because in addition to having a bat that spawns every 3 seconds that homes in, and air dashes, multiple air dashes, we now have a new special move. And it's called Vicious Metamorphosis. I just call it Vampire Mist, and that's basically because that's what Mira says. And when you to do Vampire Mist, you press the instinct buttons again, and when you throw out instinct, or when you throw out your Vampire Mist, it throws out a mist form. And what's great about this is that it is unblockable. It tracks the opponent, and it will not disappear unless I am hit. So if I get hit or get counter broken, or combo broken, it will disappear. So if I get combo broken, I have to get the spacing to throw at it free. So, and as you can see on Jago's health bar, it is now dealing potential damage. So let's recap. She has a bat that homes in every 3 seconds. She has multiple air dashes. She has Vicious Metamorphosis that drains the opponent's potential damage, and that's not all. We now have, in addition for the Vampire Mist to do potential damage to the opponent, we now have a means to gain back my health without using Embrace. So if I use Vampire Mist where I have no more red health, it will latch on, and every single time it does its little pulse, it gains back some health. So now, and this is everything that Instinct can do. We have a homing bat that spawns every 3 seconds. We have Vampire Mist that drains the potential damage from the opponent, at the same time gaining my health back. And we have multiple air dashes. So when you pop up Instinct, the first thing you need to do is safely throw out Vampire Mist. Because when you have Vampire Mist on, we can now go crazy. We can throw out heavy attacks, we can throw out air dashes, we can throw out mist, we can do anything that we wanted to do beforehand, where we would be, a bit more cautious with our health system. As long as Vampire Mist is on, we can just go nuts, because the health regen is keeping me alive. And I can cancel my air moves, I can mist away from pressure, I can go in for the pressure, I can do mix-ups, I can do everything I could do before, but now I'm basically safe. So, in Instinct, her instinct is really, really powerful. And this is just like scratching the surface of her potential. So this is why I was saying that you really only need one mist or one instinct. It's because of just how really powerful it is. So if you can only get one, don't stress it. If you are not getting any instinct bar, you need to rethink your health mechanic usage. And if you can get 2 instinct bars, that's good. That's awesome. So that's the basics for instinct. I'll get back into instinct again for setups and all that. But so let's talk about some good setups to get into instinct safely. So we can do something like this, where we can be far away from the opponent, mist, and then wait for it to latch on, and then start our pressure. Or maybe we can do something like do her launcher ender, then instinct, throw a mist out, and I think you're safe. I think if the opponent quick rises, you're still safe. So yeah, that's another good way to safely put on instinct and the vampire mist. We can even do something like shadow bats into instinct cancel, and then throw out mist while the opponent is getting hit or blocking them all. We can even do it during her mix-up pressure. So say the opponent is blocking and they have meter, and they try to shadow counter my medium or heavy reaping, like pretend as if they're going to go and shadow counter the second hit. I can do an instant cancel and they'll whiff it out, and that gives me the free pressure, or the free punish. And another thing I like to do is use it after a launch ender, and then go for something like her medium reaping, because a lot of the times the opponent might assume it's going to be a heavy reaping because of the recap. So instead I can do something like this, where I force them to lock out, pop instinct, and then actually go for her recap. And that's free damage because the opponent is also locked out. Then now that one is a bit more riskier, but it's still really good, so keep that in mind too. And then what I think is probably going to be the best one is to do it mid combo, after doing Shadow Bloodseekers. So something like this. And then go for an ender for your choosing. So that did 54% damage. It took 1 meter, but it also, I was able to use instinct, and I was able to safely apply the vampire mist, which is the very first thing you want to do, always. Because if you don't have vampire mist on, you are at a slight disadvantage, because now you have these really good tools, but you're kind of you don't have the means to gain the health back. So pop vampire mist as soon as possible. Alright, let's talk about some setups. So Mira is a rush downing setup, air mix-up monster. She has an easy time getting in, she has an easy time getting out, she has so many good tools. It all just comes down to her health mechanic. But master of the health mechanic, and then Mira is a walk in the park. So we need to have some good setups. We need to have really ambiguous cross-ups. We need to just make sure that the opponent never knows our next move. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through some really good setups for each of her moves. Let me go ahead and turn on the attack properties. So I've already mentioned how well light bats are. Again, medium bats and heavy bats do have their uses, but light bats is the one you're going to be using a lot. So let's go ahead and start talking about some nice light bat setups. So We can do something like this: medium punch into light bats, or heavy kick into light bats. Now, these aren't true block strings, they're not true combos. If the opponent has meter, they can punish with a shadow, projectile, invulnerable move, so you gotta keep in mind for that. But a lot of the times, they're still pretty hard to react to anyways. So, use your amazing normals to go in for the light bats, and if the light bats go through without the opponent jumping over them, we can go for our mix-ups. And we have multiple ways of going at it. So we can do something like light bats into reaping, so I can go either high or low. You know, I'm probably going to need my health regeneration on. Alright, so something like medium punch into light bats, into medium or heavy reaping. Let me have the opponent blocking too. Let's have him blocking all. Alright. Something like that. We can even go for something like her instant overhead with her air dashes. So remember, master her air dash, so we can do some instant air dashes pretty quickly off the ground, something like that. So it can be like up right here, do that, and then right there, that's an overhead. So the opponent has to first block the bats, and then they have to know what my setup is. You know, I can go reaping, high or low, or I can go with her high air dash. Or I can change it up a bit and go like that. So now the opponent has to block high and block the opposite direction because I'm going and doing my cross up. Or I can do something like this. Oops, messed it up. And go for a grab. I missed the timing there. Something like that. Or maybe something like this. And go for a low attack. Or maybe something like this. A low attack and then going for reaping. Lots and lots of possibilities. Even go for something like this. And now remember, this is all just from her light bats. Again, the light bats are really meant for keeping the opponent locked down, and this is what makes it key for a lot of her cross-ups and mix-ups. You know, you really got to utilize all of her tools, keep them on their feet, keep them on their toes. So then we have her reaping mix-ups, which, you know, she has her lows and high versions. We can do her instinct to bait the shadow counter. We can do it about from right here, and if they block it, we're still safe. It's good to do on wake up, on the opponent's wake up, if you think the opponent is not a DP happy person. You know, if you're fighting against a fighter who has no wake up option, like maybe Mira, you can do something like a hard knockdown, and then go for her reaping. You know, keep them guessing. One I like to do a lot is after her juggle. Something like that. I got the timing wrong, but you get the idea. And because it has a really good reach too, she does leap forward a bit and then does her scythe. So we can just be like from right here, you know, pressing the buttons and then going for her reaping. Do something like that. Let's see what else we got here. So if the opponent is jumping up in the air, we can use Light Trifine to get below them or get underneath them, and then maybe go for an anti-air. Medium Trifine is really good at approaching them from their wake up, because they have to because we can switch sides, so the opponent might not know that, and you can catch them off guard. Something like that. Or even off the grab too. At the time, yeah, might have to do the timing a bit more strict. Something like, oop, missed it. There we go, something like that. Remember that on block you need to use Bloodseekers to keep yourself safe, especially from light Trephine. Medium Trephine, I think I might have already mentioned it during my Trephine breakdown, but that's basically it's not a true block string, so don't do this because the opponent can actually escape the pressure. I don't remember if I had said this either, but you can actually pass through, you can go underneath certain projectiles with Trephine. There is a timing to it, and it won't go through all projectiles. It goes through Jago's because his projectile hits pretty high. I think it goes through Shadow Jago's, but it won't go through a lot of Omen's projectiles, so I wouldn't ever risk doing that against Omen. So yeah, the timing is kind of hard, but when you land it, it looks really cool. This a lot in training mode, you know, practice your air dashing. And this is also really good to use against if you're fighting like qualifiers online, like if you're fighting against newcomers. You know, they usually don't know what the heck to do from this, so it's kind of funny just to do this all day and it kills them and they get upset. And then we also have some really good setups from the grab. Life Bats is one of them. It keeps them locked down. We can go for a pressure with Reaping, or we can do air dashes, something like that. We could even throw out Medium Bats, go for Reaping, and if the opponent blocks it or hits it, or gets hit by it, the Medium Bats will still follow through, and if it blocks it, we can actually go for more mix-ups. So I can do something like that. Or if I know it's going to hit them, I can just do something wacky too. I did the wrong one. Something like that, you know, just look really crazy with it, look fancy. You know. It all comes down to utilizing her air dashes. Let's see what else we got. Let's see what else. We can do something like this off of hard knockdown, throw out heavy bats, and it kind of basically like circles over the opponent. And I don't know, I think I might have forgot to mention this, but you can only have 3 bats. You can only have 1 bat version out. You can't have light bats and then use medium bats. You have to wait for the bats to go away. Now that would be really insane if we could have multiple bat versions in the air. Something like that's pretty cool. It does take away a pretty big chunk of health, but it's also really hard to block, so just gotta like pick your poison really. You also want to make sure to master her manuals. Because of her combos, a lot of her special combo moves are easy to identify, especially at the reapings, because you just gotta look at which direction the scythe is going. You want to use her manuals to really make it harder for the opponent to combo break you. They're not too hard to master. It only took me a couple days. I don't really have any tips for that, but just take the time and you'll see an improvement from not getting combo broken all the time. Let's see. There's also if you want to maximize your damage, you can do on a punish. Go for something like this. It's gonna cost you 2 meters, but it's 22% damage and it's unbreakable. There's no breakable period in it. So if you manage to do that when they're low on health, and you know that extra damage from the Shadow of Bloodseekers is gonna count, definitely use it. Definitely use that to end the match. She has no problem gaining back her meter, so definitely use that if you know it's gonna go for the the kill. And then we also have her juggles. Her juggles are really good. Her juggles are really good, and it's a shame that I don't really see a whole lot of other Mira players really capitalizing on her juggle opportunities, because I believe that's also one of the things that makes Mira a lot more powerful. So like one of the more easier ones to perform are after her launcher ender. So I can do something like that, juggle off of them, go for some special moves in the air. Just do anything other than her recap, because as I mentioned earlier, the opponent might go for her recap heavy, and if we do other juggles, they might lock out, and that gives us free damage. And we can pretty much do juggles after pretty much any of her normal moves. Do light punch into light kick if you wanted to. Do light punch into medium kick, or light punch into heavy kick. There's a timing to it. We can do medium, crouching medium punch, crouching heavy kick for the hard knockdown. One thing I like to do is something like this. Oops, the opponent needs to have quick stand. But basically after we do her juggle, we can just go for a light bats into her air dash. It's really hard to react to. Okay, so let's talk about how to maximize damage off of a counter breaker. So Mira can do tons of damage already, but to do it off of a counter breaker is just insane. So let me just go ahead and show you the most damage you can do from a counter breaker. So that right there did 75% damage, and it cost me no meter and no instinct. That's all just from a counter breaker. Now it did take a pretty big, decent amount of health away from me, so it is a bit risky to do. But in return, you're doing 75% damage, so it's a lot. If you are low on health, You can do this other version. It's a bit more optimal. It won't cost you any health at all. It's going to be this one right here. So this one's going to do 68% damage, so it's not going to be nearly as much as the other one, but it is going to be the more safe version to do. So to get the stronger version, you have to hold the counter breaker button, and by doing so you'll actually force out a heavy linker instead of a medium linker. So this is without holding it. I get the medium linker, and if I hold down the button, I'll get heavy. So this works for all characters in the game, but they don't really benefit off of it like Mira does, because of the way her health, the way her damage scaling works in her other buttons. So in order to do the more damaging one, we have to do light manuals in between the heavy linkers. And then if we wanted to do the safer version, we just do heavy punch, light linker, or what do you call it? I lost my train of thought. Let's do that again. Heavy punch, heavy reaping, heavy punch, light embrace, and then reaping ender. Yeah, doing the light embrace linker gives back the health that we had to spend to do the heavy reapings. So that's basically how to get the most out of your counter breakers. If you have instinct and 2 bars, you can actually further it some more. So you can do something like this. So that right there does 88% damage. It does way more than the 75% from the stronger version, but it is going to cost you 2 meters and instinct. But we were able to put on Vicious Metamorphosis safely, so that's a win-win for me. And the amount of damage it did is really good. So if you have the meter and you have 2 and instinct bar, go ahead and do that version if you know that 88% is going to kill. If the difference between 75 and 88 is winning or losing, I would go for that. But again, you need to have 2 meters and instinct. So that's basically the counter breakers. Whenever the opponent is locking out, that really gives you the opportunity to go for either damage or health. So let me have the dummy do lights. Alright, so assuming the opponent locks out early, I can go for damage. So that right there was 65% damage off of a early lockout. It did cost me a little bit of health, but again, we're doing a lot of damage, so you know, it's up to you in deciding what's more important, health or damage. We can even do something like this, where we go and do a basic combo just like that, but instead going for the Embrace Ender and gain back as much health as possible. Because we're building up the pips to level 4, and then we're going for the Embrace level 4 Ender, which gives us the most of about 1/4. So we did decent damage, and we also gained back a huge chunk of our health. So maybe if we're like at this point, we can do something like this, add some linkers in there, and then go for the end. So that right there did 34%. It's a lot. It's not a whole lot in Mira's damage, but it's still really good, and we gain back a lot of health too. So whenever the opponent is locked out, be it in the beginning of the combo, near the end of the combo, you really want to maximize on that. You know, depending on how you feel at the moment. You know, if you need more health, go for the light linkers or the heavy linkers, and then go for the Embrace Ender. If it's at least 3 or 4 pips. Or you can even do something like this, where you're doing the damage right here, and you can also go for the Embrace. It's not really all that worth it, but you have the option if you want to go for health instead of damage. Personally, I'd always go for damage, but it's up to you. This is where the manual learning really helps you, because when you're doing your manuals, it'll be harder for the opponent to break you, and that gives you the opportunity to go for some sweet, nice free damage. Alright, let's go ahead and start talking about the instinct setups. The really fancy, awesome stuff. Okay, so let's talk about some setups in instinct. But before we do that, we need to talk about more about the instinct bat. So, the bat spawns every 3 seconds, like we all know. So, on paper, it doesn't really do much. I mean, yeah, it spawns, it goes, it's a homing bat. I can do something like, you know, wait back here and wait for the bat to go in and close in, and I can go in myself. That's cool and all, but you know, on paper, the bat seems kind of lame. You know, it's just a bat that spawns every 3 seconds. So yeah, it doesn't really seem like it's all that great, but it is far from bad. In fact, I think it is insanely good. And the reason for this is because of the opportunities we get during our enders, and even in the corner, or even in the middle of the screen. It all just comes down to proper setups and timing. And this 3-second cooldown is really important to know. So, the reason why this cooldown is important is because we want to make sure that we can spawn the bat as soon as we end our combo. So let me go ahead and just explain a little bit of it. So I'm going to do a combo right as soon as the bat spawns. I'm going to do a simple combo. So right there, the second bat didn't spawn until Jago had already gotten up from the ground. He had plenty of time to do whatever he wanted to do. I basically ended my turn, and it was back to the neutral game. But the goal here is that we want to make sure that we can have the bat spawn as soon as possible. So let me go ahead and just show you how that looks. Alright, so right there, the bat spawned basically right at the same time that Jago got off the ground. That was a lot different from when the bat had spawned after he had already gotten off the ground. And the reason it was able to spawn sooner is because I was able to have the 3-second cooldown finish itself while I was doing my combo. That made the bat able to spawn as soon as possible. Whereas, if I did the combo right here, the bat didn't have its proper 3 seconds of a cooldown. So, what this means is that after my enders, if I can properly time my bat, I can do some really crazy ambiguous cross-ups. And it all comes down to her launcher ender. We can't really do much from her embrace ender and her damage ender. It all comes down to the launcher ender. So, let me just go ahead and show you a really good setup that I use all the time, and it works almost all the time too. It's really hard to block. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about what the heck just happened. So, first off, I purposely extended my combo. That way I can guarantee that the bat had finished its 3-second cooldown. I then did my launcher ender. I was then able to do medium Trifine, which is a exchanger, like we all know. And basically what happened was I had the timing right just perfectly enough for the bat to spawn right in front of basically right on top of the opponent's hitbox when they woke up. So let's go ahead and watch that again. Or let me go ahead and do a similar combo. Alright, I'm extending the combo to guarantee the bat to spawn on time. So the bat will spawn right as soon as he gets up. And the bat will always spawn on Mira's hitbox. So let's go ahead and turn on the hitboxes. So the bat spawned right behind her. And I can probably time it about right here. As you can see right there, I had the bat spawn in front of, on top of me on mist. The bat spawned while I was in mist. Bat spawned as soon as I missed. So with the proper timing, we can actually create some really interesting setups with our bat like this. So right there, I purposely went behind him to get the bat to spawn behind him. Just like that, right there. And there again. That looked interesting. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that combo again, with the hitboxes on. The bat just spawned, I'm extending my combo to get the cooldown, then I went for that. So right there, I performed my Terfine, and while I was in Terfine, the bat had spawned, and I was behind the opponent when it cast. And that made the bat spawn there, and the bat spawned behind the opponent because of that. So, what that means is that the opponent, they have to, first off, they have to know that the bat was spawning. Because if they didn't know the bat was spawning, they'd basically just assume it was their turn, and they'd try to do something. Which, that wouldn't work, because they would get hit. And that gave me a free punish. However, if they know the bat's there, they still have to respect it, because the bat spawned right on top of their wake up. They have to respect it. If they don't, I can do something like this, where I could block their upcoming attack. I can block, and they can possibly activate Instinct, and then go for something like a Shadow, and I guess in Jago's case, a Shadow Wind Kick to pass through the bat, but I'm in a blocking motion, so then I can actually just punish their, I can Shadow counter their Wind Kick if I have meter. And that's just one of the possibilities. You know, half the time, or I would say about 99% of the time, when I do that combo, the opponent gets hit by it anyways, because they never expect the bat to be there. I'm forcing the bat to play my rules. And this is all without having Vicious Metamorphosis on. So if I have that on too, that just adds even more damage. Now that time I did it too late, or too early. And just like that, if they didn't respect the bat, I was able to do an easy combo for 27% damage because of the stacking potential damage on them with Vicious Metamorphosis. And this is just from that setup with Medium Terfine. And I don't remember if I mentioned this at all, but Medium Terfine and Medium Reaping actually cause hard knockdowns off of juggle hits. So the Ender I was doing, the Launcher Ender, causes a soft knockdown, so the opponent can quick rise if they wanted to, which half the time they do. But I can actually force out a hard knockdown, and that gives the bat enough time to spawn on top of the hitbox, just like it was with that first setup. So let me go ahead and show you another one. And I'll have hitboxes on too. Extending the combo, go for this. I forced out a hard knockdown, and the bats had plenty of time to spawn right on top of their hitbox. So now this gives me the opportunity to go for some wacky mix-ups in the air. I can do something like that, and now what just happened there was pretty interesting. Whenever, as you can see, if you look at my hitbox, it's, you know, a normal hitbox, but when I air dash, it becomes really tiny. and even more so, maybe around the same hitbox size doing a back air dash. But when you're doing an air dash, it actually shrinks in size. So what this means is I'm now able to do some interesting setups while the opponent is on the ground. So right there, if you manage to look at it perfectly, my hitbox was there's a small gap between my hitbox and their hitbox, and because of that, it made like the appearance as if I was like warping through them, which I'm not. I'm just using my hitbox and I'm using my bat and I'm using my hard knockdown to have the game or have the bat play my rules. So I'm gonna do something like that. Go punish them because half the time they won't expect it, and then they will get hit by it. This is another one I like to do. So this one, I'll go ahead and do it again. And in the combo, I went for crouching heavy kick. You can also do crouching medium kick if you wanted to, or medium punch. And then go for the medium Trifine, which causes a hard knockdown, gives the bat enough time to spawn right on top of them. And then I'm able to do some wacky mix-ups in the air too. So right there, I don't even know which direction they had to have blocked it correctly. It's just crazy. Like half the time I'm just pressing buttons, and 99% of the time the opponent has no idea what to do. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just going crazy on it, and they get hit, and most of the time they do get hit. So that's also a really nice setup. These are all combo breakable, so you do need to switch up your game if you feel as if the opponent's catching on. Because the mediums are hard knockdowns, they might expect it, so they'll go for the medium breaker. Do something like this. The bat didn't spawn right on top of their hitbox when they woke up, but it was still close enough to where they had to expect it, or had to respect it. So here's another one that I like to do. It is very difficult, but if you manage to get it, it looks really cool. There we go. First try. Awesome. Alright, so basically what happened was I did a hard knockdown, I jumped over the hitbox, and I basically did a downward mist at the perfect timing to where my hitbox was just on the other side of, like just past his hitbox, and it made Jago switch sides. So right there, Jago switch sides again. That time he won't. That time he will not either, but you can see his body switched, but he switched back. So yeah, you can look at Jago, he's kind of freaking out a bit. And that's kind of essentially what I did with the medium reaping into that mist setup. I'll go ahead and try to do it again. Nope, that time I missed it. You know, something like that. Still really cool looking. The opponent is going to have a hard time blocking it. I've managed to do these online. Some of these setups are going to be really hard, so they might not be all that ideal to do online, but or like on like any like kind of fighting against real people. But a lot of these other earlier setups I was showing you, like with the medium embrace, are all really easy to do online. So feel free to try these out. Really good. I actually don't really see any Mira players do these. It's a shame. I do believe her instinct mix-ups with Trifinander is really good. And the funny thing is, we're not even done here. There's a lot more to it. So, let's see. Let me go ahead and turn off the hitboxes. Alright, so the bat spawning, we all know about that now. The 3 seconds, it won't spawn. It will actually not spawn during the combo. That's important because we wanted to extend the cooldown to spawn on our saying. So right there, I timed the bat to spawn right when I wanted it to, which is right on top of their hitbox. So, what's cool about this, after the grab, is that I can actually do this in the corner. And when I'm in the corner, I get some really cool things out of it. So, I'm doing it in the corner. If I do in my normal grab, I can't do anything after this. There's nothing I can do to extend the combo. But, if I have Instinct, and I have the Instinct bat spawn just at the perfect time, I can actually do some juggles off of it. Then do my juggle cash out, and boom, right there. 56% damage. So, in the corner, with Instinct on, Mira has become even more deadly, especially when it comes to doing resets. So, you might be thinking, or you might see it as, well, it's cool and all, but what are the chances of getting the opponent to be in the corner with Instinct on and having the bat spawn just on time? So, on paper, it doesn't look like it's ever going to work. But the idea is to do these after resets. So, one I like to do a lot is something like this. Go for reset, and then it guarantees the bat to spawn just in time. And that right there, they're 51%. So, and actually if you count the first combo and then onto the reset, it'll do even more damage. So let's see. This combo did 27%, and this one did 46%. So that's like 60 something percent, 70 something percent damage altogether. So when you have the meter and you have Instinct on, it becomes really good to do these in the corner after resets. It's funny how it works out, and it's really cool. I've never seen any other Mira players do these. So I think a lot of Mira players don't even know about these, so if you are just finding these out, then you're welcome, because this is really cool. It's really awesome, it's really fancy, I love it. So let's go ahead and start. Let me go ahead and start showing you some really cool corner combos. Now some of these may or may not be all that ideal to do, because it is kind of execution heavy, but they look really slick. So hopefully I won't drop them. Alright, so this one is for resets in the corner from crouching resets. So if the opponent is trying to jump out, so do something like this. So that right there, 40% damage, but it costs 2 meters and Instinct. So while it looks cool and looks really fancy and all, it's gonna take a lot of your resources. But this is all because of a reset. So if I do something like a basic combo into reset, that did 27%. add on top of that 27 plus 57, that's 84? I think 84%. That's 84% damage from a reset in the corner, and that was a reset, that was a crouching, low hitting attack reset. We can do something like that, although I never managed to do that online. It does take some weird timing. Let's see what else. You can actually do light bats after a after one of these. You can even follow it up with heavy bats if you do something like a crouching hitting attack. Really cool. So let me show you a 100% damage reset combo. I'll show you two of them. So here we go. Hopefully I won't drop them. And again, these are all mainly for show. I have managed to pull these off online before. It's really cool looking, but good luck getting it to work. Because not only do you have to get the execution right, you also have to make sure that the opponent doesn't actually combo break it. But here we go. Let's try it. Oh, you know what? I am going to need my health regeneration off. There we go. Oh man, I barely got it. As you can see, it probably did about 98% damage if you add all of those resets together. I must have done one of my buttons wrong, but it basically does do 100% damage. Again, these are all resets, so good luck actually getting it. But this is basically just also to give you an idea of just how crazy Mira is with instinct and in the corner. You know, it's just mind-blowing with the potential she has. And this is all because of the instinct bat. So if someone says that the instinct bat isn't good, show them this. You know, it's really good. Let me go ahead and show you another one. This one is going to be really hard to explain, but I'll try my best to do so. Alright, so this one was a bit different. Let's see, basically what I did was I did my instinct combo, the one that's really good to do for setting up instinct mid combo with the Shadow Bloodseekers. But then what I did after that was I went for a medium embrace or medium Trifine to exchange sides. And the only reason I was able to exchange sides mid combo was because I did it after Shadow Bloodseekers. So if I try doing medium reaping as a linker, it won't work. But if I do it as a new attack from Shadow Bloodseekers, it counts as a new attack. So I was able to switch sides. And that's basically what I did in the corner. And I switched sides. I did my Launcher Ender. I went for medium reaping, and because of the way the bat spawned, I was able to get the bat to spawn right as soon as my reaping went, and I purposely whiffed the second reaping hit for the bat to hit the opponent for juggle, and that allowed me to go for a manual in the air, or for a manual juggle into heavy reaping, which was a recap. And after that I did light Trifine for the reset, and then I basically just did a instant grab corner combo of my choosing. So I could have done a different one, but I did this one for the more damage, and that right there did 100% damage. So hopefully I explained it right. Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but again, it's just one of the many things that Mira can do with instinct bats. So, and I got a few more to show you. I got one in the corner. I get one in the middle of the screen. Actually, this one I'm about to show you right here was performed by someone else. I can't remember their name, but I just want to give a shout out for them for finding this out. So shout out to them. Alright, so that right there was pretty cool. Basically what I did was I used Heavy Reaping, or Heavy Trafine, after my Trafine Ender, and it basically did the launcher Ender, but without the Ender. It still launched the opponent, and I was able to follow up with some wacky bats. So let me go ahead and try to do that again. As you can see, the instinct bat was able to spawn at the perfect timing to allow a juggle, and I was able to throw in light bats and go in for shadow reaping for the juggle cash out. So here are some that I was able to find. So let me go ahead and show you this one. Oh no, I missed it. So yeah, these are really cool looking. They're mainly for show. So if you're gonna do these, I would suggest maybe doing these like for fun. I would probably want to do these like during a tournament, because good luck trying to get that to work. So that right there, I purposely threw out a medium reaping to bait the opponent to try to lock out, or try to combo break or counter break, but it won't work. And because I was in a juggle, because the opponent was in a juggle state, they can get locked out early, and super hard to do, but I've managed to do it a couple times. It's really cool. And we can actually do those instinct bat grab corner combos after a wall splat, but it depends on the fighter I'm fighting against. Some characters, I think like Hisako, like the shorter fighters, that won't work, but like the bigger characters, or like the average size, so like Jago or Aganos for the bigger characters, that will work. You just go in for the grab while instinct is on. Make sure you have the cooldown timing right, then go in for the shadow reaping. And let's see, I got one more to show you, and then that's about it for the instinct setup combos for instinct. Or actually, these are more for like just for show, just to kind of give you an idea of what she can do. If you want to style your opponent, then you found the right video. So here's another one. Hopefully I won't miss it. There we go. So that right there was pretty cool looking. I did a air dash, and I timed my air dash perfectly enough for the bat to spawn at the perfect timing, which was right in front of the opponent, which was able to do a juggle off. So yeah, super hard to get to, but badass nonetheless. So that's kind of it for what I have to show that are stylish. A lot of the combos that I was showing you after like doing the something like this. This one is still really good to do. The corner combos are actually really good after resets, so I do I do recommend trying to do these. I'm gonna miss it, yeah. So yeah, that's basically what I have to show right now for the instinct setups. If I ever find anything else, I'll definitely post them on the forums. Alright guys, we are getting pretty close to wrapping up my guide. Before we actually officially end things, I do have a couple of more setups or some tricks and tips that I forgot to mention earlier. So let's go ahead and start that off with the counter breaker potential from air counter breakers. So first up, let's have Jago jumping, and combo breakers are all set to all. Alright, so this is going to be the most damaging one, but it is also going to take the most health. Pretty much similar to the ground version. Okay, so this one's going to do 63% damage. And so then we have the one that's going to be safer. This won't take any blood, or it will take some, but then we'll use Light Embrace, similar to the other one on the ground did too. So let's go ahead and do that one. Alright, so this one will do 58% damage, and it didn't do hardly any damage to myself. So that's from the air counter breakers. Next up, we also have her juggles outside of her launcher ender. So first up, what's really nice about doing the light bats is that if it catches the opponent trying to jump over them, like say I throw these and they try jumping them and they miss and they end up getting hit by them, I can go in and do some air juggle pressure with her buttons in the air. So I can do something like light punch or medium punch, something like that. That one blew out the combo, but you can kind of get the idea of how it's going to work. So you throw out bats, and then if you have enough potential damage built from the opponent, you can go for some Shadow Reaping for the juggle cash out. That there did 21%, not too bad. But again, it's cool because you can do like combos and then do resets. So just pressing buttons here and pretend I did a reset and tossed out that, hit him, and there we go. That did 36% damage from building up potential damage. The light bats count as an opener, so whenever I do my air normal, this is breakable, and that's why I wanted to talk about her counter breakers in the air, since a lot of experienced players won't give Mira the opportunity to go and do her air juggles, because a lot of her air juggles do land into some good setups. So we can do something like this, then go for light bats, and then do some on my pressure. Medium Reaping does the hard knockdown, same thing. So change up your buttons in the air if you're going to go for the confirm from the light bats or just any kind of confirm for juggles. Definitely mix up your buttons so the opponent won't always break heavy or won't always break medium or light. So, and then I wanted to talk about medium punch, crouching medium punch, and crouching heavy punch. So all three of these buttons hit twice. So first off, these are really good against armored opponents. So something like Algonos. If Algonos has, say, 1 or 2 chunks, about 1 chunk, if he has 1 chunk left, if you do something like this and he gets hit by it, because it does 2 hits, it's going to strip away 1 of his chunks and allows us to actually hit him for a combo. So you can use these to your advantage against armored opponents. It does work against like Glacius sometimes. If you have the right distance, it will work against TJ Combo with some of his armored moves. There is timings for them, but that's not what I really wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was how good they are after doing something like, say, her air pressure into the ground. So if I have the opponent blocking, you do something like this, and sometimes the opponent will try to shadow counter my grounded move, so something like that. If I went for heavy kick on block, they could have shadow countered, and that would have hit me, and that would have been bad for me. But what's nice about medium punch, crouching medium punch, and crouching heavy punch is that because they hit 2 times, there's a chance that if they were to go for a shadow counter, it'll actually fail. I might have to switch to a Mira match. I'm gonna do that real quick. Okay, so I got Mira as the dummy, and I'm gonna do something like this. I'm gonna do. Let me get me in the corner. Alright. So, if I block this and go for shadow counter, that would work. But what you can do instead is something like this. So if you do medium punch instead, if the opponent tries to shadow counter, more than likely it will fail. So that time I did it too late. That time I got it perfectly down and I missed it. It is still possible to actually shadow counter it, but the opponent has to know that I'm going for a medium punch, and the opponent also has to know the timing for it. So that time I got it right because I knew it was coming out. But half the time the opponent has no idea what butt I'm going to do next. And the great thing about this too is that medium punch, crouching medium punch, and heavy punch, crouching heavy punch, they all 3 of those have different timings, and they're all very strict. So the opponent really has to know what your next move is to actually shadow counter it. So it's very tricky, very powerful. So if you're going to use her air normals and you're going to use her grounded pressure afterwards, I definitely recommend using medium punch or crouching heavy punch or crouching medium punch. Let me go ahead and go back to Jago. Alright guys, well, we're reaching near the end to my guide. Before we officially end things, let's do a little quick recap of what Mira is. She is a rush downing, damage doing, vampire biting monster of a character. She is, I think, top tier. She has all the tools she needs to succeed. The only thing that really keeps her grounded as far as like balancing goes is her health mechanic. But even then, her health mechanic really isn't that much of a burden once you really get a good hang of things. So once you reach that point in your Mira gameplay, she becomes such a more dangerous threat that I'm surprised that she can get away with so much. With that being said, I hope my guide has been useful for you. I have been playing her since her first day release. She is a ton of fun. She plays like no other fighter in the game. If anything, she kind of plays like a Marvel character. I mean, she has her air dashes, she has really good mobility, she has high damage, she has 100% reset kill combos, you know, things that you would expect to find like in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. But we all have that bundled up in one character, and that's Mira. Um, so yeah, just a little quick reminder that if you're a first timer with Mira, you have to expect to find like yourself dying from the health mechanic a lot. You know, it's something that is very unique to this game, and it's going to take time. So don't like stress about it. If you end up killing yourself a lot, it's going to happen. It happens to all of us. But she's a lot of fun because of it. She requires a lot of quick thinking and a lot of smart decisions. Because if you're not smart, you'll kill yourself like that. I don't know if y'all heard that, but that was a huge thunder. Anyways, so yep, I think we're pretty much about done here. Again, my name is Adrian. I actually used to go by a different gamer tag. I used to go by MHZatiranXV, but I recently changed it. But I'm a regular on the forums, and this is where I will be posting it. So if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to message me. If you want to look to play some games with me, just hit me up a message, and I'll be down to play. I'm always happy to learn some new matchup knowledge. But that's about it, guys. I will see you guys on the forums.